We are trying to get Lianne from Shift Legal Solutions on today. She's from Canada, and we met her. There she is. There you are.
Hello.
I'm always so relieved when it works.
Yes.
All right. So I was just saying that we met recently because you were actually referred to us from one of our Canadian clients. And I love, like, we have clients all over the English speaking world, but we have a lot of them in Canada. And so even though you're Canadian, I feel like Canada is ahead of us with certain things involving family court. And so I was so happy to find you, especially because you came with these accolades. And our client suggested that I interview you. And as soon as we met, I was like, this is perfect because we're both on the same page about what we want to help people with. So I know that you were a former assistant prosecutor. Can you talk a little bit about why you left that and started doing what you do, and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Maybe I'll just start with a little introduction. So my name is Lianne Houssami. I've been a lawyer since 2011. I've practiced in a number of provinces in Canada, but right now I'm located in Alberta, and I've been here since 2013. So like you said, I've been a former prosecutor, but even before that, I was a family lawyer for a number of years. I started out that way in 2011, and I practiced until 2018. I think I experienced some of the same issues that many family lawyers experience: burnout, dissatisfaction with your job, not a lot of feeling of appreciation, I guess, for the day-to-day tasks you're doing as a lawyer, just not a lot of satisfaction, I guess I will say. And then I had an incident happen with a client where she ended up taking her own life as a result of very highly contested litigation. And for me, that was sort of the last straw. I was prepared to sort of turn my back on family law at that point. And I shifted to the Crown's office. We call it the Crown here in Canada, but would be the district attorney, I guess is what you would call it in the US. So I started prosecuting individuals for criminal offenses. And to be honest, I loved that job. It really offered me something different, and it offered me a lot of satisfaction as well in terms of my day-to-day professional life. But there were some challenges with that as well in terms of flexibility. I'm a mom of two little children. And so I was looking for something else. So I did want to return sort of to my roots, but what I wanted to do was do things totally differently. Over the years, I had noticed that there was this huge gap in the market, and that really lawyers were not serving the needs of the majority of litigants. So I decided for myself I was going to start this practice, and I was going to do it totally differently. What I'm looking to do here is sort of a shift in paradigm, a shift in the culture. I'm just coming back to family law on my own terms.
That's excellent. So I know one of the things that, and well, first I want to back up and say that's just horrific what happened with one of your clients. And I can understand why somebody would commit suicide who's in this situation. I know, you know, that we deal with a lot of high conflict divorces and post-separation abuse, and we often meet people, luckily, you know, on the verge, but who haven't done it. And I don't think, and knock wood or whatever, but none of our clients have committed suicide yet. I hope it never happens, but I think it's wonderful to be able to come back to it and to offer hope to people that you can get through this. And it is, we always tell our clients too, this is one of the hardest things that anybody has to go through in their lives. So I'm glad that you came back to doing this kind of thing. And why don't you talk a little bit about why it's so important to be direct as an attorney? I know for us, we call it we're not attorneys, obviously, but we call it the New York reality check. And so I always appreciate meeting people who are also very direct. So why is that so important for a lawyer to be?
Well, I think it's a fundamental characteristic of any lawyer. I mean, you're paying somebody to be objective, right? You're not paying for a friendship. That would be very costly, in fact. But I mean, it's a disservice a lawyer would be doing for a client if they weren't being direct. A lot of miscommunication can occur. It's just better to be straightforward and to sort of tell it like it is. I mean, you could do that with compassion, obviously, and you should. But when you're paying a lawyer, you're paying for their expertise and their advice, and there's no sense in not being direct. Where we get into some trouble is where people do sugarcoat things. Let's be honest, sometimes your client is the problem as a lawyer, right? often pick and choose our clients. So the approach of being direct is necessary. A big part of being a lawyer is managing your own client. I mean, if my client is the problem, so to speak, in the situation, it is part of my job to tell them that. It is part of my job to deliver that news, obviously cautiously, but you need to be direct. If the goal here is, to reach a settlement or to get your desired outcome, I need to tell you exactly how to accomplish that. So there's no sense in beating around the bush. And sometimes that is, you need to change your behavior.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of my own situation and that of many of our clients where their ex seems to have an attorney who is not managing their client, and it seems like they're making very foolish decisions. And I often think of my own situation for all these years that I've been in court, like how aggravating it is. And I keep wondering, like, why doesn't my ex's attorney save him money and do the smart thing? But it's not happening. Like, why do you think lawyers don't manage their clients? Is it true that, as a lot of us cynical people say, oh, because they're making a ton of money off of difficult client, so it's not in their best interest to settle?
Well, I mean, you have a fiduciary duty out to your client as well, right? So it's always in people's interest to settle. But sure, there's some people that are in this for the money, but some clients are unmanageable as well. So there is that issue. And if that was me, I mean, I probably wouldn't act for someone like that. I mean, even when you retain me in my retainer agreements, I mean, I have clauses in there about my profession, my professional reputation, and things that I'm willing and not willing to do. So I mean, I would not put my professional reputation on the line for a client. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, we are advocates, but I'm not a hired gun. So I mean, there's a combination of reasons probably why that happens. But each lawyer, like any profession, everyone has an approach. But I do think that client management is a big part of why matters become so contested. Yes, just because your client wants to do something, your job as a lawyer is to reflect as to whether that's appropriate, necessary, and what purpose does that serve. So I think lawyers do need to take that responsibility a little more seriously. But as to why it happens, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons. But, sometimes, like I said, it is because the client is themselves unmanageable. And at the end of the day, you're an agent. You are taking instructions from this individual. So it really has to do with where your professional boundaries lay.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know with Chris and I too, when we take a client, we want to make sure that we want to work with that person. And there's certain people that we feel like are not very coach worthy. And generally that's the people that refuse to listen. And not that they have to listen to what we say to do, because we don't want to tell them what to do. But when we tell them, like, this is the reality of your situation, they're just like, no, this is what I think. That we're just like, this isn't going to work. Do you think it's similar with your clients, like that not listening tends to be one of the more difficult qualities of a client, an unmanageable client?
100%. Yes. And why are you hiring me? If you're not going to listen to me, why are we in this relationship? I mean, this is a two-way street of communication and trust. I mean, if I'm telling you what to do and you're not following that, then we have a fundamental issue here where you're not trusting my advice. So I tend not to continue acting for clients that don't actually listen to me. And I am not willing as a lawyer to compromise my reputation with the court and my duties to the profession as well. Just to make some money. So I clearly stipulate that in my retainer agreements that, yes, I'm here for you, but there are certain boundaries that I'm not willing to cross.
Oh, I love that. That's one of the first times I've heard a lawyer say that there's that kind of clause in their retainer agreement. And wow, do I wish that it was more common in America.
Well, and what I'm trying to do here with this business as well, I mean, it seems very ambitious and it's kind of, I guess, one client at a time, but I do want to change the culture of being a lawyer. I've practiced for over, I guess, 10, 11 years now, and the number of lawyers I've met are not satisfied with the practice of law. Most of them are just doing it because, I mean, that's what they went to school for, and they've invested a great number of years and dollars into this profession. But most people I come across, if they're speaking real with you, they're not really happy with the practice of law, at least family law. I mean, because that's kind of my circle. So I think a lot of lawyers would be interested in, creating a different culture. And that's what I'm trying to start here. I just want to be genuinely myself. I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a person, and I have other attributes that I can bring to the table. So I'm just being my real, genuine self and using my education to help my clients. but I am interested in changing things because it wasn't working for me, and I know it's not working for a number of clients, and it's not working for a number of lawyers. So small steps, but I think this is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. I feel hopeful when I'm listening to you. That's wonderful. Okay, so you touched a little bit on the gap in the market and something that you noticed, which changed how you decided what to do with your law degree. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I've practiced in a number of provinces. I was in Northern Canada for a while as well. So I've kind of seen what the family law system has to offer in a variety of areas in Canada, at least. And it's pretty much the same across the board. Lawyers are just not affordable for the average person. And even if someone can afford them at the outset, I mean, a couple of months into a matter and I mean, there's no more money. So lawyers end up withdrawing. So I would say, 80%, 70, 80% of people really can't afford lawyers, maybe at the beginning, but not throughout litigation. So there's this huge gap in the market that their needs are not being addressed. Certainly the more wealthy individuals can afford to pay whatever the fees would be. And certainly the individuals that are less wealthy and would qualify for subsidized services like legal aid, they may be able to obtain lawyers. But it's the average, 70% of people that are really not able to afford these services and need them. So, what I'm offering in terms of addressing that gap in the market is, yes, I'm offering full representation like any lawyer at sort of better rates, if you will, but I'm offering unbundled services because what I've experienced from many of my clients is most are very intelligent and most can do most, if not all, steps involved in representing themselves in litigation. So basically, I'm trying to fill that gap as well to allow them to do that for themselves, to empower them, to empower them with information, with support, whatever they need. So what I'm offering that's really unique is this unbundled service, where essentially you can just pay for my time. You remain in control. You tell me how you want to spend it, and that's what we'll do. And I've had a number of clients that they have specific issues. I mean, they don't need help obtaining disclosure, for example. That's a very sort of straightforward issue, but maybe they need assistance with drafting an order or responding to a settlement offer, just something very specific. And it allows you to remain in control not only of the steps that we're taking, but how much money you spend as well, right? You are assuming the risks as a self-represented person, but it allows you to maintain some control and to obtain the best of both worlds. You get the benefit of my experience, right? But you're not going to pay the normal price tag, so to speak. So that's sort of what I'm doing that's different as well. I am trying to use basically, tutorials, videos, sharing of information as a form of advertisement as well, rather than spending a fortune on Google and, billboards and this kind of thing. It's a win-win. I can share information with people that then brings them, to my circle, brings them to my page, and allows me the opportunity possibly to obtain clients. But I'm also feeling good about the fact that this is information that's very easy for a lawyer to share. I mean, takes very little time and energy, and it's sort of a win-win. They come for the free information, and my name and my business gets out there. And so I'm really trying to do every aspect of the running of this business in a different way than traditionally it has been done.
It sounds amazing. I love it. But I know that you said that sometimes you're viewed as a traitor in this business. Can you talk about that? Why would you be viewed as a traitor?
Well, I don't know. I don't know for sure if I'm viewed that way, but I'm sure some may not appreciate what I'm doing. I'm sure the general public may appreciate it, but other lawyers may not like it all that much, only because when we talk about unbundling services, we are talking about giving away some control. Lawyers, they have a monopoly, at least on the advice part of things. So there is, I guess, a sense that the profession is losing control over what it is we do, which is representing people. But we need to get with the times. People are not able to afford lawyers. So let's shift our business framework. You can still be a lawyer. And in fact, I love doing the unbundled services because after 10 years of contested litigation, I'm not that into it anymore. My preference would be that you do it and I assist you from my office. I mean, it's a win-win. You pay less And I don't have the aggravation of going through contested litigation as well, because as hard as it is on clients, it's hard on lawyers as well. This is not something most people enjoy.
Yeah, and we never think about that.
No, well, lawyers are not, they're not perceived as human beings sometimes, to be honest. And that's why I want to be myself as a lawyer. I don't know why we have to wear these two separate hats. And I mean, you know, like I can be professional, I can have this knowledge, and I can still be approachable and down to earth, and we can kind of collaborate. I mean, you can help me and I can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we talked in the past, and I want to talk about it now, why courts are so bad for families, because we know family court is different than a lot of other types of court.
Yeah, so I mean, the court system is set up to be adversarial, which is not appropriate for families. And the court over the years has tried, at least in Alberta and Canada, you know, they do recognize that the court system is bad for families, but there hasn't really been an alternative put forward. Instead, they've tried to create rules and processes to I guess, make it easier for people to represent themselves. But really, the family does not belong in a courtroom setting. The whole idea is me against you. And at the end of the day, you have your trial, you get your order, and then basically you're abandoned. You have to now co-parent with this person. And now you've actually gone, aside from all the emotional, you know, things that have unfolded, now you've gone through contested litigation. So, I mean, your relationship with this individual is a lot worse. It's harder to co-parent with them after you go through a trial, but everyone's gone. You're on your own. So the system, it really should be reserved for the most extreme of cases, and it really is better for people to try to obviously resolve things by agreement. But something that I see is coming in the future, and I really do hope that families take advantage of this, is arbitration. If the government is not going to be able to address the needs of families through the courts or through some sort of tribunal type of setup, you can privately settle or have these matters decided through arbitration. So I do see a big future in arbitration where people would just come to an agreement to allow a qualified third party to make a decision. So that would basically give you a lot of freedom to set your own process, right? And you're not going to be beholden to the timelines of the court, right? Which, as we know, I mean, it's years to get to trial sometimes. So I do see, the way forward is going to be privately arbitrating family law issues.
Now, how is arbitration different from mediation?
It's a similar type of process in the sense that it's alternative to court. Arbitration is more similar, you know, to a court in the sense that they have a procedure they must follow, and you will get a binding order at the end. It's contractual in nature because the parties are agreeing to be bound by this. So it's different than mediation because you actually get a binding outcome. Mediation is great as a negotiating tool, sort of to get to the agreement. But also, of course, for many parties, it's not appropriate, right? You can't, sit face to face when there's violence and high conflict. But the main difference really is that it is quasi-trial in nature, and you get a binding outcome, whereas you can go through mediation for several months and not reach an agreement. And even if you do reach an agreement, tomorrow they could breach it, and it's of no consequence because it's not a binding agreement.
Yeah. Well, that sounds a lot better. And I think also having that third party who's really an authority with power, where it's not just, oh, do you want it? But like, no, this is what is going to happen. Like, we're going to finish this. That does seem like it would work better with especially people in our community.
Yes, and faster as well, right? So, because as you go through this process of litigating in court, I mean, you're talking about years of your life, right? And then once it's finalized, then you can maybe begin the healing process. But the sooner you could begin that, the better. So, arbitration, I think, will speed up the timelines as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, we got to start finding out if we have arbitration here. I mean, usually hear about it for businesses, but I don't think I've heard of arbitration with family court matters. Is it more common in Canada? Is it just beginning?
It's common in the context of labor law, things like that. But no, it's not really common here, and that's why I'm saying I see it as the future. There's a few people doing it, and I think it needs to be marketed more because I don't think people are aware that there is an alternative to court that provides you with a final decision.
Yeah, Well, that sounds great. All right, let's talk about how a lawyer can be an agent. We talked a little bit about the power imbalance in the past.
Yeah, so I mean, I see the power imbalance as kind of being maybe twofold. There's an issue of knowledge, obviously, and there's an issue of confidence. The knowledge is something someone can acquire, and I do want to help people acquire the knowledge. But even I find, even with doing the unbundled services and assisting individuals with the knowledge aspect, they often still are very intimidated by the process.
Mhm.
Um, so we need to work a little bit better on that. The courts are viewed, I think, by the average person as a very intimidating place. And I think over time, at least here, I feel like there has been a better understanding that there is this large portion of the population that's unrepresented, and the courts have been a bit more cognizant of that and have adapted their practices. But yeah, so I mean, a lawyer obviously is an agent for their client, but lawyers can also be an agent for empowerment, and that's what I'm trying to do. Better for me is if you do it yourself and you feel good about doing it yourself, you're in control of it. So, as an agent for my clients, I want to empower them to make the decisions, but also empower them to take the steps as well. And like I said, that would be through tutorials. I do a lot of, I'm planning to do a lot of videos, even workshops, how to write an affidavit, things like that. And then just trying to, provide them with the confidence, telling them, the court will see you as a self-represented individual, obviously, and they are going to provide you a little bit of room for error. Obviously, they're going to be a bit more gentle with you. So in some ways, utilizing the unbundled services, you almost do create a balance of power in some ways, because you have the benefit of the court viewing you as a self-represented individual and treating you a bit softly in that way, but then you get the benefit of the actual advice and expertise. So I see that unbundled services as kind of evening out the power imbalance a little bit for self-represented individuals in court.
Yeah, and I really like how you talked about people starting to feel empowered. I know that confidence is a big issue with our clients as well. And when they start to realize that there's things that they can do themselves, because that we do the same thing, of course, in different ways, because we don't do legal advice, but teaching them, and I say this in a lot of our posts, like teaching them how to help themselves, especially for people coming out of domestic abuse relationships. They need to learn how to figure out how to do things themselves. They need to have that authority, believe that they have the authority themselves. So in a way, what you're doing is helping with the healing process by giving them their confidence back, especially in the court. I mean, we've had pro se clients as well who have won everything that they wanted in court and were like stunned, in a matter of a few months. And I'm thinking of one woman in particular who wrote a whole testimonial about how when she first found us in our legal abuse support group, she was still couldn't even open an email without freaking out. And then she went on to get restraining orders, to get, legal custody, everything that she needed. And she did it on her own because she had the tools to do it. So she was getting advice and, expert guidance in the background, but then she did it herself. So she felt even better because she was the one who could enjoy the success, and now actually the client is going to law school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for her. Good for her. Truly empowered, I suppose. Yeah.
I know. So we're really, really proud of her. So I love that. Now let's talk a little, actually, we got a question. Someone in Canada asked, how do you go ahead with arbitration instead of court? So how would they even learn about it?
So you're going to want to find a qualified arbitrator. Usually there's a governing body in each province where you can find out who's certified in your area. And as long as they offer that service, they'll obviously tell you how that works. But you and the other party would have to agree to that process. And as long as you both agree to be bound by whatever decision the arbitrator makes, it's essentially a contract. Like, you're going to hire an arbitrator in the same way you're going to hire, I suppose, a mediator, because it's both parties coming there. But yeah, you just start by looking up who would be a certified arbitrator in your area and asking if they provide that service in the context of family law. If they don't, they should.
Yeah, great. Okay, and now let's talk a little bit about enforcement. I know enforcement's been a very big issue for my case in particular. That's why it's years and years in court because I can't seem to get actual enforcement. But it sounded like enforcement is different in Canada. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, I don't know what goes on in the US, to be honest with you. So it's hard to say it's different in Canada. I think probably we have some of the same types of issues because, I mean, at the end of the day, the court gives you a piece of paper, right? I mean, that's essentially what they do provide you. There obviously are mechanisms built into the system to try to enforce that. But enforcement is usually the last step, obviously, and it's often the most complicated step. As you've indicated, it can take years and years to actually collect a judgment or, you know, whatever it is you're looking for. I mean, I guess one thing I can say is we have a couple programs in Canada, at least in Alberta. I guess I can speak about Alberta, the province that I practice in, that do help in the context of family law enforcing judgments. So we have the maintenance enforcement program, which, as far as I understand, all provinces in Canada have a similar program, and this is set up to take away, you know, the need for parties to communicate about support orders, payment of support. So this is a third party that collects the support payments and provides them to the recipient. There's a record provided, and if you are not current with your payments, they have a lot of authority to take steps immediately against you. So, for example, one of the first things that maintenance enforcement would do if you're late with your child support payment is that they're going to apply to suspend your driver's license, and that happens relatively quickly. They can obviously take action to garnish your wages. They can apply to take your passport. There's all kinds of things that they can do, and they actually are fairly good at enforcement here, I find. So this is a great program. It's free. And even for individuals that get along, it's good to use the program because if nothing else, it takes away the communication, that awkward communication over the payments, and it provides you with an independent record of what has been paid as well. We also have a program, it's called the recalculation program for child support. And this is a program where you can sign up for this, and essentially every year, as your income changes, a member of this program will basically recalculate the amount of support owing so that you don't have to go to court. It's an out-of-court process. And this is a great program because child support is, I don't know about the US, but it's pretty straightforward in Canada. So it's very easy to recalculate it, and it just ties up unnecessarily court time. So that's a great program as well that is also free for people to use.
I can imagine. I mean, I think Americans would love a program like that, except for the people that have a really good child support thing right now and they don't want it to change, but that sounds amazing. Yeah, we got to find out more about that. I'm already like looking over at my partner, Chris, saying we got to look up arbitration and anything like that with child support collection or recalculation. All right, so we talked a little bit about what you're doing to fix this broken system, but you're in Canada. Is there anything that just the general population, the rest of the world could do you think, to ourselves to start helping fix the broken system?
I mean, advocacy. The more people that say it's broken and ask for changes to be made, I mean, the more likely they are to take a serious look at that. And here in Canada, they do periodically make changes. Like, for example, there were some recent changes made to the Divorce Act. That's probably partially in response to feedback received from the courts, from lawyers, from the general public. So, I mean, I would suggest that people put pressure on their elected representatives to highlight this as an issue. It isn't good for families. We do need an alternative, and really it does either need to come from the private sector, which is what I'm telling you about arbitration, or if not, then it also needs to come from the government, and setting up maybe something like a tribunal as opposed to a court where, we aren't bound by such strict evidentiary rules, and especially in the context of family law, when we're talking about the ultimate test being what is in the best interest of the children. A tribunal setting would be much better. Being beholden to, strict rules of evidence, I mean, that doesn't really meet that ultimate objective of coming to a conclusion that is best for the child. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a combination of lawyers seeing the problem, and addressing the issues in the market and taking that on themselves, as I'm doing, as other individuals are doing with arbitration as well. And then, just putting pressure on elected officials to try and take whatever steps they can to address these issues.
Yeah. All right. Great. We have a lot of people in this community that are definitely advocates. All right. And now you talked a little bit about how you educate people with doing these videos. So how about you share how they can find your videos and find you?
Sure. So a lot of law firms I find are not really keen on using social media, but I live in a community that's kind of unique. Most of the people that live here are in their 30s, so it's a great place for me to really utilize social media. So I'm pretty active on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, Shift Legal Solutions. You can check us out on Facebook. Also Instagram. I'm new to Instagram, so I'm trying to build a presence on Instagram. But on Facebook, I've uploaded at least one video right now because my practice is new. I've started just in January, but the hope is to periodically upload videos on how to do certain things. So I have one right now, which is how to do legal research using a database called CanLE. This is a specific database for Canada, but I don't know if there's other databases for the US that your other clients could take advantage of. How to do an affidavit, how to do, how to take various steps in litigation. I plan to basically go from starting point to finish and do a series of videos on what steps need to be taken. And, even though the laws on paper are obviously different in Alberta versus, I think you're in New York, right? I mean, obviously there's differences, but the general principles are the same. And certainly an affidavit is the same. So some of the information that I'm providing, yes, it is somewhat specific to Alberta, but much can be learned for individuals in the US as well. So yeah, you could check out my Facebook group. Also, I have a website and I'm reachable by email as well, info@shiftlegalsolutions.com.
I'm so inspired. Thank you so much, Lianne. This is really exciting, and we're definitely going to check out your Facebook for myself, as well as I'm still trying to get enforcement. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm so glad that you referred to us because I think a lot of what you said today will help a lot of people.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity and the platform, and I appreciate your support as well. And I love what you guys are doing as well. There is a need for support for individuals going through this process, and I think there's a bit of a gap in the market there as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's stay in touch and do it again.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.